Welcome to another reflection, this time on Psalm 130. I don't know about you, but I often turn to the Psalms, particularly in times of difficulty. I find so often that whatever mood I am in, there is a psalm that reflects that mood, reflects where I am in life, and helps me reflect on where I am. And so it was with Psalm 130, which was the lectionary psalm for last Sunday. And I've been looking at it a bit over the last couple of days and reflecting on what it has to say to me. And I thought I should hand some of that on to you and share it with you so that you can mingle that with your own thoughts. But first I'm going to read it, then a few reflections, and then part of a prayer that is drawn out of Psalm 130. But first the psalm, and I'm reading from the New International Version. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. If you, Lord, keep a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. I wait for the Lord. My whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord. More than watchmen wait for the morning. More than watchmen wait for the morning. Israel, put your hope in the Lord. For with the Lord there is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins. So, it is a short psalm, just 8 verses long, but the more you delve into it, the more there is in those few verses. So what can I say? Well, firstly, I think it's important to notice that the psalmist, like many of us today, are suffering, and have probably been suffering for some considerable time. You don't often get into the depths of some situation without it taking a little bit of time. The psalmist seems to be somewhere that they can't get out of themselves. The situation is overbearing and hard. And so who do they turn to? They turn to God, and they turn to God because experience has taught them that they can do. They turn to God and they ask God to hear them. But more than hear them, they ask God to listen attentively to them. So to listen to where they are, what they are suffering, and how they are feeling. They want God to listen and for their request, their cry for mercy. They are asking God for mercy, for care, to be lifted out from this place of darkness and depth. They are looking for comfort, for an end to their suffering. And they're asking God at this point in their lives because experience teaches them and has taught them that they can do. Their relationship with God is strong enough that they know that they can speak to God directly wherever they are whoever they are, in whatever situation they are, and they can expect God to hear them and to respond. They have experience of a loving relationship with God. And their faith is strong enough that they are patient in their waiting to hear what God has to say to them. They will wait for a long time, if possible, if necessary. They will wait and they will listen with their whole being, expecting God to answer them, but not knowing when God will answer them, and so being themselves attentive. As they ask God to listen to them, they're prepared to listen for God, in the knowledge that God will speak to them in one way or other. They will use all their senses. Keep them open to listen for what God is saying to them in the way that God is speaking. And that's very powerful, I think. Both the patience to wait and that they are waiting with their whole body, their whole being is listening for God. But as we go on through the psalm, it becomes apparent that the psalmist isn't the only one suffering. Indeed, it's very much like today. So many people are suffering. So many people feel alone. So many people feel isolated, and many increasing numbers around the world still, unfortunately, are becoming ill, and some are dying. And so this is a difficult situation, very much like a dark situation that the psalmist was obviously suffering, but not on their own, for he turns to Israel. He turns to his neighbours and his friends and says, look, you can talk to the Lord just like I am. You can talk to God from where you are, from the depths where you are, from your situation, and you too can expect God to listen to you and to respond, because God is a God of, as in the psalmist's word, unfailing love. I love that terminology, unfailing love. So you can put your hope in God just as I have. You can speak to God just as I have. And if you listen with all your body, with all your mind, with all your soul, just as I have, you will hear the Lord, if you too are patient. For with God there is unfailing love and resulting redemption. So there is a real sense of hope in this psalm, not just for the psalmist. He is one individual, but he's just as concerned with his community around, and that they can speak to God as well. They can be lifted out of their depths. And so there is so much in these 8 verses to be grateful for at this time, but to reflect on and see how they can speak to us. And so, very much like the psalmist, out of my faith, I encourage each and every one who watches this video to also cry to the Lord. Ask the Lord to hear your voice, to be attentive to your needs and the needs of the world. Let us all cry to God for mercy, for strength to endure, and the God of unfailing love will, if we are patient, answer us and will respond to the hope that we have. And so now, let us come to that prayer. It is a prayer that has been written with Psalm 130 in the mind and the soul of the writer. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Hear the voice of those who are anxious and fearful, those who cannot shake that feeling of dread that has fallen across our lives. Hear the voice of those who have seen long-prepared plans fall apart, those who are now finding it hard to see what their next step should be. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Hear the voice of those who are working day by day, night by night, to bring relief and care to those affected. Those who don't know when opportunity for rest will come. Hear the voice of those who now have no work and no income. Those who worry how the bills will be paid or whether their business will survive. Hear the voice of politicians who are expected to provide answers. Those who are bewildered by events and dealing with issues they have never imagined. Hear the voice of service managers trying to keep stretched systems running, those trying to respond to needs that far outstrip supply. Hear the voice of teenagers who have worked so hard for exams that they may never sit now. Those who are afraid that their future prospects will be damaged. And hear the voice of children who watch the adults around them. Those who may seem unaware but who are deeply affected by the stress of those around them. Hear the voice of those who are only recently flooded from their homes, those who have had everything taken from them and have nothing to fall back on. Hear the voice of those who live from doorway to bench, who have no protection, those who cannot find a safe and warm place to self-isolate and be fed. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. And when we have watched and waited, and our list of petitions has exhausted us, may your voice be very clear to us. Speak to us with your voice of hope and grace. Speak to us with your voice of wisdom and truth. Speak to us with your voice of love and compassion. Speak to us with your voice of challenge and calling. And having heard your voice, we will find new ways to follow you. Amen. I hope you find this reflection helpful, and I hope you find the prayer helpful as well. I look forward to speaking to you again at some point soon, in person or through these video messages. In the meantime, God bless, keep safe, keep well, and keep talking and listening to God and those around you. Goodbye for now.